Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OnlyLandFans show. My name is Kendall Lejeune, and our guest today is Matt Walt. Matt Walt is an engineer turned entrepreneur out of Houston, Texas. He left the corporate world behind after 1 year of land flipping and is dusting off the corporate skills with value add land projects. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, Kendall.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get to chat with you. I know that you've got some very exciting things going on and can't wait to hear all about them. First, let's just get started with how did you get started in doing land deals?
Um, it was a deal where I got pretty upset with the corporate world, basically, and finally had to say it's not you, it's me. After having some success early in my career, and then finally feeling I just felt like I'd topped out a little too early, and then moved around a few times to some different spots, and then I had this amazing what felt like a career making project hit me. I'm an electrical engineer by education, and was working in the power world, and there was a big wind project that was slated to go into the west side of Oklahoma, and it was going to be the second largest wind farm in the world, and the largest in the Western Hemisphere. And I was the guy for project managing the infrastructure for that to tie into the utility, and it was just this huge project with problems that no one had ever even really thought about trying to solve. And with that came unique challenges. It wasn't just follow the playbook, it was coming up with it on my own. I needed something, I got it, instead of running that shoestring budget. And it was so exciting and so fun. And then overnight, one night, that project the plug got pulled on it from some regulatory pressure and maybe some oil and gas lobby. And even my counterparts on the customer side didn't even know about it. It happened at the executive level, and we're finding out from the newspapers. And it was crushing to put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into a career and finally actually be happy for once. And then that happened, and it just kind of crushed me, and I never could get the excitement back. And so I started looking at it. I'd heard about some development deals, and I looked at that and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. And then so multifamily, I mean, there's multifamily people everywhere. That was the easiest exposure. I was like, I can't get into that with my two young kids and a demanding career. And then one day on a podcast, I heard about land, and I said, that's it. And I started the following week with just blinders on, no looking back, and just pedal to the metal, and made it a go.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine how devastating working on something of that magnitude. And, I'm sure it was not just, put in your time 9 to 5 and then, go home. I'm sure it was, a calling, it was a vocation. And so to have something pulled like that, I definitely understand the motivation to start looking for something else. So, how did you said you mentioned that you came across land on a podcast. So then what were your like take us back to that moment when you said, "Okay, I'm going to do land. I know nothing about land. This is what I'm going to do." Tell us what you were thinking and how you went about doing that.
Sure. I'll say this. What didn't come across in me telling you about myself? I'm from a very, very small town. I grew up in a rural setting. I'm from a town that's so small that they don't have addresses. You can get a PO box and you get an address there, but otherwise it's somewhere else. There is no stoplight. There's one blinking light. I'm
Wow.
from a very rural place. Actually, as rural as Frisco was about 20 years ago, but it has since blown up. But I'm from that area up there around Sherman. But so land, agriculture, a rural lifestyle is something I grew up in, and so it was comfortable. Now, granted, I did not start in Texas. I did not want to be discovered by folks in the corporate world about what I was up to. But it really wasn't all that foreign as far as a product type, or what maybe some of the buyers, what that avatar is, and understanding them, because that is me, or that is my parents. So it really kind of came natural. And just kind of went with it. It was really more the marketing thing that was a real stretch for me, of my imagination of coming from being an engineer, of everything having an exact right answer, of efficiency, and not just large numbers, and then you finally find the needle in the haystack.
Right, right. So that's very interesting, in terms of that making that mental shift, right, from engineer to marketer. So can you talk to us a little bit about what was your very first deal like? How did you go about finding that deal, and what was that first deal like for you?
It started where I think a lot of folks do, or at least they did. It was a mail campaign to very rural Nevada, and I came across a 40-acre property, that's kind of on this up against, at the foothills of a mountain, and really a pretty sweet spot. And if that ever came back to me, I really probably wouldn't be too mad at it. Even though it is really remote, it's really a beautiful place overlooking a valley. So that was the deal, bought for, I think, $4,600, and then turned around and sold for, I don't know, $24,000. And I was like, all right, that's it. Here we go. Let's do a bunch more.
Nice. Yeah. So you got that proof of concept and said, okay, wait a minute, this actually works. And now how can we do it a lot more, right?
For sure, for sure.
So, did you have any types of mentors or coaches? How did you learn, when you first started your land journey?
I'll be honest, I haven't watched this. We just got introduced earlier, but you do name drop programs, or like what's the deal there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good to go.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
don't hold anything. We hold
All
nothing
right.
back here.
All right. So I had heard Mark Podolsky on a podcast for multifamily. Actually, it was John Cohen's podcast, who I later got to know and become friends with. So that was a really cool full circle moment. But I heard Mark on a podcast on Thursday, and then I signed up for flight school and started on Tuesday. So I'm not kidding about, like, I decided, and it was all in right away. A lot of folks don't quite make that same dedication of just jumping in. Knowing myself, I did not do any further research into what other programs are out there, because I knew I would research it until I just didn't do anything. So I said, I'm going to work against my own nature, make the decision, and just go, and then figure it out once I got going.
That is fantastic. Yeah, I think that it feels so good sometimes when you are not 100% sure you're entering into a new space. It feels so good to do all of the research and to think about it and let it roll around your brain for days and weeks and months. And most of the time, it just takes messy action, right? Just take an action and figure it out as you go. So
100%, 100%. That's definitely in my nature, to overthink things. Just analyze, research, efficiency, back to engineer brain. But I try to be aware of when that can work against me, and then try to go in the opposite direction. And this was one of them. Oftentimes you can't see where the next step is until you start walking.
that is a fantastic point. I mean, I think I need that monogrammed on a pillow somewhere, because that is 100% true. So, what types of land deals do you specialize in now?
Sure, sure. So that model did not resonate with me. It was a proof of concept, and I quickly wanted to move along, and move into a. Now, as much as I did like that one in Nevada, there are plenty more that were not as attractive, and ones that I would want to keep. And so I wanted to kind of move upstream. Once I did leave my job after 1 year, I decided to, okay, I don't have anything to hide anymore, and start pursuing the Texas market, because I'm a native Texan, at least fifth generation along one line. So it runs deep, and it's a easier product for me to get excited about. It took some time, and it's not that I work exclusively here in Texas now, but that's kind of where I started going, with larger deals, bigger paydays, and land that would excite me, and then a buyer pool that was easier for me to connect with.
Excellent. And so you mentioned land that excites you. What are some of the criteria for land that would fit that bill?
Fancy stuff like grass, uh, trees that are more than 6 feet tall. Now, greenery is nice. Um, Desert's cool, but it's not. It's a season for me. It's not a full-time thing. Like I said, I grew up in an agriculture heavy area. Grew up with a lot of animals, and hauling hay and shucking corn and all the things. And so a place where that's kind of the lifestyle is speaks a little more to me.
Got it. So you started by doing just straight land flips. You bought your first deal. Did you close on that deal yourself? Did you have a funding partner or
Um, yeah, I think it's one of those things that helped me in the beginning, and then probably hindered me a little bit as I went along. But I fully self-funded everything for a while. Had a pretty good uh, nut to start with for that. And but when I say it worked against me, is because it didn't grow that fundraising muscle or strengthen it as early as maybe would have been beneficial. So the obstacle is the way. So everybody has their thing that they deal with, and just because it looks easy for somebody else, it might actually help you more in the long run.
absolutely. So you did it was just a straight land flip where you bought it for, a smaller amount and then you sold it for a higher amount. You took the spread. Are those the types of deals that you're doing now? Are you doing subdivides? What types of deals are you specializing in now?
Yeah, I don't discriminate against a good flip, especially if it's somewhere where there's a bit of a team or infrastructure. There's an established process of exactly how things are going to go. But I really do prefer value add deals at this point, mostly because, well, it's a little more interesting to me. But it also, I think it's kind of a little bit of a competitive advantage for me, of having the background in project management, and overseeing some construction and getting permits approved and that sort of thing. So add that with some more, I wouldn't say complex, but a little more fundraising and that sort of thing. Uh, that's where I see, okay, this is something a little more unique, that I can bring to the table than just the straight flips.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So, what would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you had on your very first value add type deal?
Um, that's a great question. If you're not local, it gets really tough to manage. If you're not local and it's not a huge project, you're looking for people that aren't necessarily going to show up on Google, um, or you got to get to the word of mouth, or go to the local hardware store and look for business cards on the board. So finding resources to get construction jobs done, if it's driveways, gates, culverts, whatever it may be, clearing, um, and then managing those. So finding them and then managing them from a remote place, if you're not right on top of it, that's definitely a challenge. I mean, cracking a new market is certainly tough, especially one as hot as Texas has been, for the entirety of my land flipping journey. So yeah, that's kind of been the tough things of new markets, and then the kind of construction piece, managing it.
Absolutely. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what's the largest land deal that you've ever done?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm participating in a couple that are over 1 million right now, but I wouldn't say, well, I can't take full credit for that because I'm not quote unquote in the lead on those. As far as being in the lead, I think I have one right now that we're into for about 600,000 and should be a double your money kind of deal.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's super exciting, very inspiring to hear. Um, what would you say to someone who is, whose big goal is that they want to close $1 million land deal, but they don't think that they can do it? What would you say to those people?
There are people less connected and less talented than you doing it every day. Not that that person does it every day, but there is one person doing it every single day. So it's just a matter of deciding you're going to do it and then sticking to it. I don't think there's anything magic to it. It's picking your spot, deciding uh, what kind of deal or where you want to work, and then just putting in the work every single day. You can't shortcut the process. Um, it's not easy, but it's there. And the more you get familiar with your market, the easier it is to find that deal and then go execute.
That is excellent. No shortcut and persistence pays off, right?
That's it.
That's excellent. We talked a little bit about, or you mentioned earlier, a little bit about funding. And so I'd like to jump over to that topic. How do you go about raising money for large land deals?
So there are different ways to do it. So I've raised a pool of money from friends, and then kind of created an entity there where I invest the money and kind of recycle it, and there's a split there. I don't think that's terribly uncommon. It's not something that's for everyone. I'm lucky to have a great friend group network from business school, so I know we're like-minded. I've spent a lot of time with them, and they understand the risk of investing, and then what it's like to be in business together. So I put that pool together and kind of use that as an operating fund. There's also basically syndicating deals where you find that $1 million deal, and you raise 50 here, 50 there, 50 there. You put together a new entity, and then go to the bank and use bank leverage and take down a deal like that. And then everybody's kind of got a pro rata share, and then maybe the operator gets a chunk from the proceeds as well, just for taking the ball and running with it. And then lastly, there's the route of a full-blown limited partnership, which is something kind of I'm on the cusp of, and really getting off the ground here pretty quickly with a partner, to basically to use that to fund my deals, his deals, and then potentially strategic partners.
That's great. So, what would you say to someone who is listening and they're very interested in doing large deals, and they know that funding these deals is going to be something that they definitely have to tackle. They want to do it. They're excited to do it, but they've never raised funds for a deal before. What would you tell those people? What are the sort of the action items that they would need to go through to get started raising money for large deals?
Well, so I would have to say that partnering and networking it's everything. That's another thing that did not necessarily come naturally for me, coming from the world I come from. You don't just go to the bar and say, yeah, you need a substation, you need 200 miles of transmission line. It just doesn't really work that way. And so networking in a professional sense never made any sense to me whatsoever. And that's actually one of the coolest things about being in land, is it resonates with so many more people. And it leads to all kinds of fun and interesting conversations. So this is not the recipe or the cookbook that you asked for to go do the deal, but I think it absolutely comes down to networking and talking to people. It will reveal partners, it will reveal opportunities, and you'll find people to do a deal with. I would not recommend jumping into a deal that size without somebody that's been there and done that.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely a team sport, which is one of the really cool things about the land space is that you don't have to know everything and be able to do all of the things. You can always partner with other people, right?
I absolutely, completely agree with that. There's a lot
So
of really great people in the space.
100% hands down. So you mentioned something really interesting, that networking, and that doesn't come natural to you. I think it doesn't come natural to a lot of people. So what are some pointers that you could give us in terms of how you go about networking? Let's say that you may be in a situation where you're out to dinner one night, and we know that money can be anywhere and everywhere. And so someone introduces themselves to you, and then you start a conversation. They ask you, so what do you do? What is your favorite way to answer that question? What do you do?
I'm still figuring that out. The strategies, kind of it's been changing as I progress in the land career. So I'm still honing that in and refining it. Um, uh, a good friend Trevor, he has a great quote, or not really a quote, instruction. Somebody asked him how to go raise money or meet people. He says, "Hi, my name's Trevor. I make lots of money from dirt." And or great returns from dirt, something close to that. And just the bluntness and in that approach can strike up conversations. So I'm still refining it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about using the term micro development, because I don't want people to think I'm going to build a giant hotel or even a single family home, but just staying horizontal with it, not going vertical, but do something to add value to land, and try to bring it to its best and highest use, while still honoring and I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but it's very important to me to honor the land and treat it sacred, because all of this around us is going to be gone, or in some different shape or form in 100 years. But that dirt, if you do it wrong, it can never be anything else but what it is if you don't do things the right way. So I take that seriously. I'm going to stop before I go further on that. But if you saw me, I reached over whenever you started asking that question, because it's where my mind went to, about networking and how to treat it and that sort of thing. And there's this book by Stephen Pressfield that I recently picked up, and I think it really puts it just as succinctly as possible. If you do this, you'll just figure out the rest. Just keep doing it. And the name of the book is "Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be." And it's very short, it's almost like short story, like 1 or 2 pages at a time, with nice little lessons. Stephen Pressfield, he wrote War of Art, The Legend of Bagger Vance. Like he's a fantastic writer, lots of really good lessons in here. But that was my thought of the networking thing. I just go where good things can happen, increase the surface area for good things to happen, and that means showing up and meeting people, and then just letting the rest of the process take care of itself.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And I've actually not heard of that book before. So that is going on the Amazon list as soon as this call ends. So thanks so much for sharing that. I'm really interested in looking at that. But yeah, I think that that's fantastic advice. That's really, really, and it's a great outlook as well. Shifting gears a little bit, where do you see the market going now, and how do you plan on shifting your business to thrive in the upcoming market changes?
Sure. I think we can all say that we were expecting a huge shift, a bottom to fall out. And I don't know about you guys, but I never saw the other shoe drop. And I don't feel like it has. And the more I look at it and consider things, larger gyrations in the world, I'm not sure it's going to. And because of that, whether that's from housing, and a lack of supply, and then everyone being locked in with primo rates and not wanting to jump into something that's going to have a much higher cost of capital. Or if you want to think something larger and less obvious of kind of global currencies and jockeying among the countries of the world, I personally don't see the downturn coming. I think we're going to keep running up for a good while, barring something dramatic like full-blown war with Russia or something like that. I don't see it coming. And so with that, I will continue to approach my business in a conservative fashion, expecting the worst, but by no means stopping or getting worried, getting too worried and not taking advantage of the opportunity in front of us. There's a quote I read one time that I really liked, and it's I'm an optimist, but I take my raincoat. And so that's kind of the way I look at it. Don't take risk. Don't that can be looked at different ways, but buy fundamentally sound land that has underlying value, buy it at the right price, treat it the right way, and I think the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that it sounds like, you're just echoing the good fundamentals of the land business, and there's a reason why they're fundamentals, and not getting cute and not getting fancy with things, and just sticking to those fundamentals, I think, is a really safe bet, regardless of what happens. So
Absolutely, absolutely. We're an alternative to the alternative asset class, but reality is this is older than anything else. So I'm not too terribly worried about it.
that's a great way of putting it. I love that. Can you talk to us a little bit about your business in terms of acquisition? So how do you figure out what target market you're going to market to?
Um, I try on different hats all the time, and I could sit here and tell you this is the exact way I do it, but you got to test things out. You got to see what works, and then just kind of iterate. And so that's the way I go about it. It could be as simple as this is a place I really like, and I know some things about it. I when we were getting warmed up here, I got a text from my realtor that we're set to close on the second piece of a small split I did in Fannin County. Fannin County is next to where I grew up. It's in the town where I would go visit my great grandparents when I was a kid. So a place that I know a little something about, and in an area I like. But then getting a little more scientific or really data driven on it, looking at the growth of a zip code or of a county, and looking at the economics of it, and not necessarily that it's the super high end or super low end, but figuring out, okay, what's the kind of deal that I want to do here, and then all right, what are the demographics here? If I want to come up with something that this seems like it needs to be, or I want to go after, say, affordable housing and develop lots that want to be for like a mobile home, well, then I'm going to go find where where the mobile homes are, where things seem to be kind of friendly for that type of development, and then kind of go down that rabbit hole. So it can be completely data driven, or it can be a little more heart driven and knowing some of the fundamentals about the area. So I think that's kind of the two-prong approach. Either I need to know it personally, or the data needs to back it up.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned something when you were answering, test and iterate. I think that that's so important. Just making sure that you are testing and iterating and making shifts and doing what works. So that's great. How are you currently marketing? What's your favorite marketing method right now? Are you texting? Are you calling? Are you mailing? All of the
So
above?
this is going to sound crazy, but I don't want to tell anything that's not true. I'm currently not marketing, and that's a huge gasp. And like you
Oh,
told me that a year ago, and I would have been really mad at myself. And if you tell me that a year from now, I might still be mad at myself. But I'm not marketing, but it was for a pretty it was a strategic reason. It's not something that was not thought on really hard. I had built up a bigger team and really making that work. And at the beginning of the year, I had a good streak of partner deals come up, and then kind of got a decent amount of capital placed, and I was like, I don't love this team, this hiring all these people and making all these things happen. And so if things are going to go bad, I need more run rate to make sure that I don't have to go back to the corporate world, because that would be a really miserable thing. And it was a very hard decision to make, and not one that I took lightly. But I ended up letting the majority of my team go and actually shutting down my marketing. And that's probably a sign of a team that wasn't functioning. And I take full responsibility for this. It's on me. But whenever I picked up those leads, both on the buy and sell side myself, started making deals happen. And then I got basically all of my capital placed. And so with that gives me a really nice outlook for the rest of this year. And then with not needing to pay for a big team, which means I was doing a lot of texting, because it's such a heavy lift. I don't have to worry quite as much. This next deal comes in, and hey, I got 10 months of a run rate, just always stacking on 10 more months. I don't need to go back to work, that sort of thing. And then, so I was actually, this whole thing came together because I had lunch with some guys, and Tim was there. And the topic of running teams, I realize I'm going way off topic of your
no,
question, but
please,
I'm
please.
just, this is kind of me. I'm going to run. I've got an idea, and I'm going to explain it. I hadn't been able to put it into these words, but it really kind of came to me. They were sitting there and having a conversation, and one of the gentlemen there, he runs a very large team. I'm talking like has an office building in Houston with an entire floor of people running this operation, both in the land and in the house space, and basically running that big team for me. Not full floor of an office building, but running that larger team for me, it made me have to make decisions for the short term, and I could not make long-term decisions, because it was always about continually keeping that machine and that beast fed. And that's the biggest upside that's come to me. Everybody needs to and wants to work a different way. I think there's something to be said for providing value to creating jobs and giving people a way to earn. But for me right now, that's not the way. And it's the trade-off right now, so that I can think bigger picture, longer term, and stay in the game instead of getting miserable and burning out and needing to find something else.
Yeah, that is remarkably good insight. And you're right, it is a bit of a gasp, because it's not very often that people are saying, I'm not marketing. And so I'm wondering if you can unpack that a little bit more. If there's someone that's listening to this, and they may be having a very similar thought over some period of time, where they're thinking, maybe I should just shut my marketing down. Um, can you talk to us a little bit more about, if you're not actively pursuing deals, how are deals coming to you? How are you managing that and navigating that?
Sure. So I'll start with the talking to people listening. I don't want to give anyone the idea that shutting down marketing is a good idea. It was a luxury for me of having good capital to place and I put it into good deals. So it's just a matter of time before that comes back to me with solid returns. And I know that I've got more time to not have to go back to a corporate world or something like that. So if you don't have deal flow, if you don't have capital, if you don't have both of those things, you probably need to figure out a different twist of what to do, probably working with somebody else, provide value to them. But if you don't have deal flow and money that's placed, you can't stop marketing because you just don't, you're not creating any opportunity to make any money. And if that's what we're in it to do, right? You got to pay the bills. So do not do what I did by any means. This was my own decision and not one that I advocate for others. As far as what I'm doing now for everything else, I've got deal flow just from network and relationships and people that I've met through the years, and I love working with people. I love problem solving. So just I maybe it's goodwill out in the universe of having helped somebody in the past, or help them solve a problem, or just been friendly, whatever. It's created opportunity, and so that's really what it's been. And then other people knowing what I do, they'll just bring me things, things that come out of the blue, or opportunities that wouldn't otherwise come if people didn't know what I was doing. And not that I've done a great job of being really out there with what I do, but I've been trying to make a little more noise lately, so that folks in my everyday network, friends, family, people that I grew up with, know what I'm doing, and opportunities will come my way. I had one hit me last week, and I'm going to catch up with him tomorrow. A guy that I grew up with has 82 acres of family farmland that they're going to list here soon. What he didn't know is it's literally across the road from the trailer that we lived in when I was born. So it's a really cool thing, one that I really hope to be able to turn into a project. That I think the story is one of those, comedians have their bits, good presenters have their bits. If I can make that one happen, that's going to be one of my bits.
Yeah.
The story that I tell over and over. I'm optimistic, and I'm hopeful that I can make something happen with that.
That's incredible. Talk about full circle. That would
Exactly.
be absolutely incredible. Yeah, while you were talking, another thing that stuck out to me is that what a strong case you're making for networking and connecting with people, and just making sure that you stay connected with people in the industry, because not only are these potential people that you could be working with now, but also potential people in the future. They come across deals, it all kind of feeds itself. One more question about that is, for people that may be brand new to the space, they've never heard a lot of these terms before. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean when you say placing capital? The reason why you're able to stop marketing and stop doing deals is because you've been able to place capital in good projects. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I mentioned syndicating deals earlier, and so really it's that model. So to stop using the fancy words, basically it's people will pool money. Maybe they'll go to a bank and ask for a loan on it, or maybe they just pool the money, and then everybody has a share proportionate with what they put in to participate in those returns. It could also look like just straight up funding a deal, and I've done a little of that as well. So a profit split on that with another fundamentally sound deal. So that's been it. It's there are oftentimes more deals out there than there is money. And uh I know Brad's certainly looking for good ones all the time. But it's a matter of networking. I don't know Brad, but I'll look forward to connecting with him soon. And I've heard good things from him from Jason. Actually, now that I think of it, Brad just recently funded a deal from somebody else that I let go of because it just didn't fit my buy box, and I know they made great money on it very quickly. So you just never know when you're going to run into people that can make things happen. And so that's it. Just network, and the money will always find a good deal.
That's fantastic. And so when you're looking at, when let's say someone brings you a deal that they want to potentially partner on, what are some things that would be absolute deal killers for you when you're analyzing these deals?
I've learned a lot from Justin Sleva. He's an amazing guy, amazing teacher, and Adam Southey, both of those guys from Casual Fridays. Access. If there's no physical and legal access, I'm not here for it. It just makes, it doesn't have to, but it's one of those things that can very quickly lead to a long time on the market. If mama can't get out there and open her car door in her sedan without scratching up the doors, it's probably going to be a problem. Unless it's a very obviously hunting property or whatever. But even still, physical legal access, if that's not there, I'm not touching it. So that's the first one. Lesson learned the hard way. Not touching a POA again on anything that's more than a very small dollar figure. That's been my toughest deal to sell for sure.
And so for people that are listening that don't know what POA is, can you?
Yeah. Property Owners Association. So think if you've lived in a subdivision in the city, think of your HOA, your homeowners association, and the folks going around leaving nasty letters for uncut grass, or your flag is 2 inches from the top of your flagpole, if you're allowed to have a flag at all, or your paint is the wrong shade. That in a larger acreage kind of thing. I call it property owners instead of homeowners because of the acreage aspect.
Got it. Absolutely. That's fantastic. So what's something that no one is talking about in the land industry right now that we should be talking about?
Ooh, that's a great question. I asked you if you had any questions that stump, and this one feels like the one.
Sorry about
No, it's all good. It's all good. That's a really good question. If I'm shooting from the hip, it's probably phone skills. Really, at the end of the day, phone skills is what separates the killers from the wannabes. It's being able to get on the phone, build rapport, help people understand what's going on, and make deals happen. But it's working the phone and getting people to trust you and to want to do a deal with you. I think that's the number one skill. It's the skill that probably does 90% of the work, where we go chase all the greatest CRMs and the more text, the more letters, all the things. If you're a killer on the phone, you probably get a lot more than your fair share of deals compared to folks that aren't great on the phone. And that's whether you're even with sending out blind offers, but especially if you're in the range or the neutral or the RVM or the text messages, all the things that don't start with an anchored offer. It's just so much more important. And I wish I could, that's one of those things where I could probably work on it all day, every day for the rest of my life and not feel like it's mastered. But I think that's the single biggest skill that nobody talks about because it's hard to sell a course on it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's a fundamental, and very often fundamentals are not super sexy. Like we want to know like how can we get AI to do that for us and what are all the CRM stuff, right? Um,
100%.
yeah, I think that that is 100% spot on. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I know that you have a hard stop, so I want to honor your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Um, I want to thank you for giving to us today. I know that this was very last minute, and so how can we give back to you right now? What resources or connections are you looking for currently?
Sure. So thanks for the ask. Just the networking piece we talked about. So, if anybody needs anything, wants to chat about a deal or chat about their career or our girlfriend troubles, just kidding. If just anything, you can reach out, contact me. I'm on Facebook under Matthew Walt. Two T's on that. Walt, like Walt Disney, but it's my last name. I'm on Instagram, Matthew C. Walt. I'm on Twitter, Acquiring Acres. Had to get the alliteration, Twitter, all the cool guys with their Anon accounts and all, but I'm not anonymous, but on Twitter. And then I'm launching a fund here soon with a partner. And so if you're interested in that, whether that be capital or if it's for partnership, whatever, we've got that coming together, and we just launched the website there, crockettcap.com, CROCKETT, cap is in short for capital.com. So yeah, that's it. And yeah, let me I'll drop my email in the chat too here after we finish up.
Fantastic. Well, again, I want to thank you so much, Matt. You have just been absolutely fantastic. Again, thank you for sharing so much with us. This has really been exciting and very eye-opening. So thank you so much. This has been great. Really looking forward to working with you in the future in some kind of way. Definitely, for sure. So
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. Really enjoyed it, and look forward to catching up with you soon in person. And then everybody else that's out there listening.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matt. Thank you everyone for joining us today and for posting some great questions. We were able to get to those questions, some of them, in the interview. And so thank you for joining us. If you have not joined us yet officially at onlylandfans.com, please sign up. It's absolutely free. You can shoot over to onlylandfans.com. We can continue the conversation. Most of our guests are actually members of the group, where they become members, and we can continue conversations that way. We have links here in the chat where you can also check out our podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you like to podcast. Also, we do video podcast episodes on YouTube. So our YouTube channel is there. Also, Matt's information is in there as well. So thank you all so much for joining us this week. I'm wishing everyone a great week, and we will see you next time. Everyone, be great. Talk to you then. Bye-bye. If you're interested in hearing from other 6- and 7-figure land flippers about how they've built and run their businesses, then check out my group, OnlyLandFans, where I do a live interview each week inside the group. You can grab that link at the description below. Until then, be great, have a great week, and catch you in the next one.